everyone. Welcome back to Love and Life Sorted. I'm Dr. Sandy Toe, and today we have a really interesting topic. It's the MBTI, which is really a trend right now, the Myers-Briggs personality test, to learn more about who you are, what's your personality traits, and who's the best match for you in terms of partner. And today we have a special guest with us. It's Dr. Kevin Tsang, my friend from the UK. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Sandy. Great to be on.
Yeah, Kevin. Okay, so Kevin got his PhD from the University of London Goldsmiths College, and he is a bus expert. He studies the history and culture of buses in the UK and Hong Kong under the supervision of the legendary Mike Featherstone, the king of postmodernism. But Kevin has another identity today. He's not going to be talking to us about buses, maybe another time, right? But today he is going to share his expertise on the Myers-Briggs personality test, like the MBTI. He is like an expert on that. All his friends go to him for advice. Yeah, so don't be too modest here because you are an amateur expert.
Right. Thank you.
Yay. Okay, so Kevin, what is this MBTI about? Like, this is a huge deal now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect that to be such a huge deal because, well, I first got in touch with this test. I got introduced to this test by a Canadian friend during my exchange, actually, in Copenhagen, a decade ago. And instantly, it just hooked me on because it's so powerful in explaining yourself and other people. So I think, well, a lot of people would see MBTI as sort of not scientific enough or whatever. So I think, because Sandy and I, both of us have an academic background. So although we do sociology, but I mean, in psychology, MBTI is sort of marginalized, or they even sort of dismiss it because they think it's not scientific enough. It comes from, Carl Jung, which is also, Freudian, which they don't do anymore in academia, unfortunately. But then, well, because we're both, sort of outcasts of academia, and we don't care about this, and we just think, MBTI. I think MBTI is so intellectually inspiring. So I think it's a really great fit for Sandy's podcast, especially it's about sort of relationships and all that. Yeah,
compatibility between couples, right?
Yeah, or even friendships. So I think MBTI is so useful explaining yourself, like who you be friends with, who you become partner with, and also how you sort of behave, or the people you dislike or like in everyday life or in your workplace. So I think it's a very powerful tool. So today I think probably we have a brief introduction to this, and in relations to relationships. Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to getting to know these types more. Yeah. So first of all, let's talk a little about our types first.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the everyone knows, but first of all, the most important thing is either you're an introvert or extrovert.
Yeah.
Like the first, what are those called? The four categories?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I would think spectrum is quite a good word for it, because I think if you do your test, they will always give you, and a good test will give you the percentage on those spectrums. So there are 4 spectrums, right? The first one is introversion, extraversion, which is actually, when I was doing my preparation for this podcast, is also the first, category that Carl Jung has established. But this test is not entirely from Carl Jung, because somebody else, which is, Myers-Briggs, it's a mother and daughter, and they sort of picked this up later and developed it into the MBTI. So the other spectrums are then, developed also based on Jung's sort of cognitive functions. But I mean, without going too deep into that, I think let's talk about the 4 spectrum first, right? So the first one is introversion, extroversion. The second one is either you're on the side of being intuitive, or you're on the side of sensing, right? So we explain more about that later. And then the third one, it's thinking or feeling, right? And then the fourth one, which is the last one, it's judging or perceiving.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, we're both like I people. Like
Yeah.
we call them I people.
High energy I people, I would say. If our audience can tell, we are so hyper in things.
Yeah. It's so funny. Although we're like introverts, quote unquote, we're we're introverts, but we have like a high energy and like we're not like typical what you think, right?
Yeah.
And like we have a very vivid inner world.
Yeah.
Imaginative.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the contrast between someone who is like an introvert, I, and an extrovert, E?
Right, that's a very great question, because I think nowadays, because I think we are experiencing quite a hype in MBTI recently in society, both Western world and Asian. And a lot of people will just say, oh, I know MBTI, well, I'll read about MBTI, but they will say, oh, I'm an I person, I'm an E person. But, well, that is just one component of it as we talked about. And I think this is first. And then the second is, I think there's quite a misconception about, introverts necessarily being sort of socially withdrawn and sort of, not willing or able to connect with people around them at all, which is sort of completely wrong. Mm-hmm. So this is one we really need to talk about it, because I think the gist that we all need to understand is about the energy management, right? Mm-hmm. So it's about how you manage your social energy. So for extroverts, they gain energy from being with people, right? For introverts, contrarily, we sort of gain energy from spending time alone. So that's the most significant difference between an introvert and extrovert. And subsequently, it doesn't mean that introverts are unable or unwilling to connect with people. They just need a break afterwards. They need to recharge the social battery. And then there's like also a term called introvert hangover. For instance, like maybe say, for instance, I would go to academic conferences, and a lot of time you'll be required to meet lots and lots of people that you don't know. You will need to socialize. You will need to go to conference dinners. And then a lot of time it's just draining for me. So, and that's the biggest sign that you're an introvert. Although I really connect with those academics quite well, I would say. But afterwards, I will probably need a whole week to recharge. So that's the thing.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
same
exactly.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so accurate. Same here as me. Like, I don't mind like going to like a huge party or something. Like, I do have my fun, and I do talk to so many people. I socialize with so many people, and I'm like take so many pictures, and I'm okay. Like, people think that, oh, I'm so outgoing and everything, but it'll probably take me the whole weekend to like spend alone, recharge. And that night, I could hardly sleep. Because like I'm always like replaying it in my head and trying to like get over it. So for some people, maybe they're like, oh, I'm gonna drop dead, go home, drop dead after like a hangover. For me, I'm like, oh my God, I can barely sleep because my mind is still buzzing from all that like socializing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I've known that I for me, like I'm really not into these things for like very often. I can't do this very often, or else I'm just gonna go mentally crazy. Like sensory overload.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. But for the converse case is the opposite case is the extroverts. Like they thrive in this environment.
Yes.
They can do this every day.
Yes. So they will feel draining for spending time alone. And they will actually go out to gain energy, to be around with people. So I'll say, for instance, I have a friend who, she lives in the US now. And then when she comes back to Hong Kong, and well, she would just go to bars and meet strangers and get so energized by this. So that's the kind of difference. Yeah.
Yeah. People are just wired differently.
Yeah.
And I just cannot imagine that case for me. Like that's totally opposite of me.
Me too.
Yeah. So your parents as well. You say like another good example. They're both academics, right?
Yeah.
But they like socialize differently.
Yeah.
Their circle is like very different. How they choose their like social circle.
Social active. Yeah.
Like your dad is extrovert.
Yeah.
Right. What you just said, like he. Thrives.
Yeah. So for instance, my father, he has a research team of 40 odd people, and then what my dad really enjoys is to go and have team dinners. So he would sort of get a big place, get everybody together, not even the current staff, but those who have resigned and moved on. They would he would ask everybody to come back and to
Like
join
100
that
people.
dinner. Yeah. And then they would sing karaoke. And that's how he sort of, energizes him. But for my mom, for instance, so she also has a group of maybe research assistants or, postgrad students. And my mom would actually prefer just meeting a few of them for, quiet cup of coffee, a cup of tea.
Right.
And I think my mother is also, I think another thing is that maybe introverts might prefer sort of one-on-one relationship, one-on-one friendship. So like introverts would speak more and be more involved when the group size is smaller, right? And then the extroverts will extroverts can be involved in small, big group sizes. But I think for introverts, definitely, if the group size grows bigger, they will just shut up. Like, I think, exactly, right?
Yeah,
so that's one of the key differences. And I think a lot of times if we talk about relationships, we think about, so whether, that couple would have, quality time together. And somehow I would also think, extroverts and extroverts combo will make them, sort of their life would be surrounded by different groups of friends all the time. And then but for introverts, I think the introvert combo is quite interesting because like myself, from my own experience, if you do introvert combo, I think one of you will sort of naturally take the lead to get on the role of maybe arranging some, social gatherings for your partner. Because I think, this element is what we think about, extrovert and introverts get together, they form great relationships or whatever kind of combo, like extrovert and introvert, introvert, extrovert. But I think if you are both introvert, then one of you will sort of take the lead and do the social stuff, and the other person will just remain more reserved as he likes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the case for you and your partner.
Yeah.
You're the one who takes the lead.
I think so.
You're more sociable comparative to your partner.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for me as well. Like my husband's also introvert. Like
Right.
me and my husband, we're the introvert combination, and thus, we're very alike. Like we like to, be more like alone, spend a lot of alone time, a lot of family time at home, and I think like so who's the one who actually initiates? I think it's our friends are the ones who initiate. That's the interesting part because we have extrovert friends, and it's funny how. Like, for us, we rarely are the ones who are like, hey, let's get together with whoever. It's usually like they are the ones who take the lead. And like a lot of my really good friends in college, in high school, they're all extroverts. They're the ones who always pull me out of my shell. So this like same thing for me and my husband. We have friends who are extroverts who will pull us out of our shells. Like, whereas us, we're just, waiting for them passively.
Wow, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's how social relationships go.
But I think it's great to have both introverts because then I think you're really more focused on your own relationship. So you have really just have lots of quality couple time together, which is a great thing for a relationship, I would say.
Yeah, enjoy each other's company.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
Okay, so great. Let's move on to the next category. Like that's the key category that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think I'm the most interested in talking about this category of the intuitive or sensing category.
So that's like that's represented by it's either an N or an S, right?
Yeah, N or S. But it's so interesting because nowadays, as I just said before, people are so having a hype of saying to people, "Oh, I'm an I person. I'm an E person." But what don't you think we don't hear people saying, "Oh, I'm a proud N person or S person"?
No,
so,
never.
Never, because I think this is sort of the deeper level of this whole MBTI thing. I think, and this intuitive and sensing category, I would say it's quite a key determining factor of compatibility of relationships. I think I first discovered this by myself and my partner. So for instance, and even the person who introduced this MBTI test for me, so that Canadian girl, I mean, she is an INFJ. And I think one of the very interesting thing about MBTI is that I actually just I research about, how, like, what kind of people are most interested in MBTI itself, per se. And I think what I've found is the IN types, which is the intuitive introverts, being most interested in MBTI. I think it also explains it quite well, because I think it's the IN people who are most curious about yourself, right? Why because I think IN people is sort of reserved and a bit quirky. I think we tend to be the kind of people who are most interested in personality tests. And so I think and then it will just sort of determine what kind of conversation you have, for instance, like how you talk, what you talk with your partner, and even pushing it backwards, how you flirt your partner, things like that. So if you immediately get into the sort of deep, abstract, quirky, imaginative conversation, it would just turn the IN people on. So I think that was a great point. And so I sort of developed this this not argument, but this thing that I have in mind is the intuitive tend to naturally get attracted to another intuitive. And I think this is also proven. So I think when MBTI is getting more of a hype and getting more popular among the public, so there are also some companies, for instance, like a lot of people might use dating apps for relationships, but so I have a company that I saw online that specifies they use MBTI as a key indicator to match up people. And when I was just looking at their website with the successful cases, all of them happen to be intuitive. So I mean, all of these cases, so I think it proves 2 points. It proves, first of all, is the intuitives, especially introverted intuitives, that are the ones who are very interested in MBTI first. The second point is that it's really just, if you're an intuitive, you would naturally be attracted to another intuitive, and therefore, as a result, the successful matching cases in relationships.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's an interesting hypothesis there.
Yeah.
So what about the other type, like the sensing type, right? The opposite
Yeah.
of sensing? So
yes, exactly. So I think, first of all, maybe it makes sense to go back and talk about, sort of what they actually stands for, right? That's what we're talking about. So first of all, I think so this component is a key determining factor of compatibility, because it affects how you talk about things, how you approach things. So you whether you share the same or kind of a compatible lens of looking at things in life, right? So I think what I see is that many relationship experts also agree is that the optimal compatibility occurs when partners share either, both sensing or both intuitive preference. And this means you naturally speak the same language. And conversely, having sort of complementary preferences for the other 3 letters, like introversion, extroversion, the I and E, the judging, perceiving, J and P, they are more, providing the balance for the relationship and prevents mutual blind spots. So, but then for the N and S, it's really how you get attracted to each other, is how you approach things. So for instance, the S people might focus more on, practical, specific, present focused discussion. For instance, you might like to talk about your household issues, things like that. I don't know, because I mean, we are intuitive people, and from our own experience, so intuitive partners, couples will talk about abstract ideas, right? Talk about conceptual things, talk about possibilities in the future, as well as, more of a full picture understanding of things.
Right. So you mean like the sensing people, the S people, they're more like factual, like they like facts or present day things.
Yeah, they're more drawn to facts, more present and even past experience. So they would rely, on previous experience to think about things. But for intuitives, we are more inclined to think about future possibilities, even the unproven things. We
Right,
like to sort of envision the future, and especially so. And if it comes to relationships, then we like to envision our sweet, future together. But that's probably not what S people do. S people will focus on the present, or what we do now. Let's fix the light bulbs and things like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, things like that.
Right. So practical issues, or like, did we pay the tuition fees yet?
Exactly, this kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, maybe like the intuitives were like, hey, let's think about our next holiday, something like that, right?
Yeah, just in general talking about the future, brainstorming different things and get sort of energized by talking about, whatever that comes to mind and that are, intellectually engaging. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see how like intuitives like us, like we're not really drawn to people who always talk about like practical things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we tend to be more imaginative.
Yeah. And somehow I think there's also a thing that I would come up with is sort of an intuitive pride. Because we just somehow, okay, maybe my partner would say, if we ever meet some friends together, I would tell my partner, oh, I've just met an S person, and what can you really communicate together? And I think this is really true because it's really like if you an intuitive person comes in together with a sensing person, you will often find clashes. For instance, a sensing person would just sort of question, like, why would you be talking about ungrounded stuff and things like that. Intuitive people will also think, aren't you so boring to be always thinking about details and practical matters? And well, it's not like intuitive's not practical, but I think intuitives don't really focus on just the practical details.
We also talk about tuition and bills and stuff.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, we do, but we don't dwell on it. That's the thing. We move on. Okay, if that's settled, that topic is over. We go on to more enlightening things.
Exactly,
about the future holidays.
That's also part of our intuitive process. I do apologize if we have offended some of the sensing people, because they might as well be interested in MBTI, but I mean, as statistics would show, it's really sensing people. I think also in my experience, sensing people tend to be less interested in MBTI in general. It's like, for instance, I would mention MBTI to most of my friends and even people I newly met. But I think a lot of time I would encounter sensing people say, "Oh, why would we be doing such a test? Like we don't need such a test to understand ourselves. It's not even useful." But I think
it's not scientifically proven. Oh
yeah, exactly. Things like that.
Something that they would like to say.
Exactly, but intuitives would be sort of very interested. Like I've had multiple experiences of introducing MBTI to my intuitive friends, and they were like, it changed their whole world.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like me talking about astrology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Definitely, like the people who are interested in it are all intuitives.
Oh, we can do Enneagram as well. Right? Enneagram is another personality test. Maybe we might do it in the future.
Yeah.
But I was introduced to Enneagram by my partner as well. So my partner is naturally interested in this kind of thing as well. So.
The 9 personality types.
Yes, that's 9 personality.
Yeah. Of course, I've done all of the personality tests like out there.
Right. All right. Yeah.
Like me.
Because you're just curious about understanding yourself and others.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And I think people who like reading up on spirituality books, learning about themselves, like that's like my core interest, really. Like the way that you need to learn about yourself before you can actually learn about the world. Like that, I think that's my perception.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm glad. Well, my husband is also an intuitive as well.
So you found a right partner.
Yeah, or else he wouldn't be like talking about astrology with me.
All right.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have immediately done the test that you sent him.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so this is like a key component. This category, whether you're intuitive or sensing, that's the key category for relationship compatibility.
Yes.
Like especially for partners, like whether they're like drawn to each other or something, whether they can communicate, right? Like have like similar communication like in each other's worlds, like whether they can actually tap into each other's thoughts and words, like that's like the key component.
Exactly.
Mm-mm.
100%.
Okay, so what about like let's talk about the third one. What about feeling versus thinking?
Okay, so this is the third component, right? And I think this is more like it first of all, it has a quite a clear gender difference, I would say. Statistics would show a clear gender difference, like with clearly. So let's talk about what it stands for first, right? So the T, which stands for thinking, T people tends to be more focused on logical consistency, for instance. And for feeling driven people, they are more, focused on values, value driven, more empathetic, and they sort of prioritize emotional acknowledgement before problem solving. Whereas, on the opposite side, the thinking people will tend to sort of solve problems directly. So I would say this component is sort of a source of friction for couples, but it doesn't mean that a T person would tend to go better with also a T person, because I think like for a T and T combo, what you end up is you might have you like the good side of it is you have less of the drama, right? A lot of people get into a relationship for all the drama, and I think for two T persons being a couple, you have nothing of that. Unless you are in your immature version, maybe. But two, is sort of the avoidance of sort of this emotional nonsense for T people, right? But then I think for F people, like if you're both F, you'll probably have more of these dramas in your relationship. But okay, so I think if we talk about this as a key source of friction in relationship, it actually doesn't even only apply to like love relationships. It's also with friends. Like it also sort of directly affects how you think about it. Like as sociologists, we always talk about social issues and all that. But I think the T and F component actually directly affects how you view society, your views on politics and all that. Which funnily enough, I mean, I think as adults we learn to not talk about politics, not talk about religion in social gatherings, but in terms of your partner, you have to have these talked about, right? Otherwise, you don't even know whether the person is compatible. But so I think the sort of source of conflict will be, for instance, the F people, right? They can feel attacked by thinkers, the T people, for being harsh, being selfish, being uncaring. And for T people, they can feel sort of intimidated if their F partner is sort of more emotionally driven and having sort of less logic when they experience sort of emotional instability. But I think after all, we need to understand that it's just a different sort of, as Sandy said, how we are wired, and it's also a different communication style and a different way of showing care. So I think Sandy and I, we sort of had a discussion before this, is that I would use sort of words like, oh, this thing is useless. This thing is meaningless. But after a second thought, I was thinking, okay, this is a very T person kind of thing. Like for Sandy, say for instance, if you want to say something, if you want to present something that is say, oh, this thing is meaningless. What you're doing is meaningless. What you're doing is useless. How will you frame it as an F person? Maybe you can talk about it.
Like we're much more tactful because like we're really good at thinking like about other people's feelings, right? So would I be sort of offended if I heard that? Yes. If someone called me meaningless and useless, whatever. So I would phrase it like, okay, so I think most people won't do that because, and then I would, explain a little bit so that people don't get like their feelings hurt or something. So I'm good at that, Whenever I, reply to comments or something, I always think about the other people's feelings and put myself in others' shoes. That's what I would do. So if I hear like those really blunt sort of things, then I would get offended. I would sort of invest some emotion into that. I would take it personally. Yeah. So what you said was so accurate about like the only clash between like the couple that is like an F and a T. That's exactly me and my husband. He is a T, like he is much more blunt, like very sort of like you. He would just say it, like so. Yeah, don't do that. That's like useless. And then I would get all offended and emotional and stuff. I'm like, yeah, don't say that. Call that meaningless, useless. And then I'm like an F person. So that is like the only component, the only category that we have like that is different. Like I am an INFP and he is an INTP. So the F and the T is our sole source of clash.
Exactly.
For sure.
That's the sort of source of quarreling. And I think this aspect is really the most obvious when couples quarrel, even friends when they quarrel. The T and F is really the sort of key source of it. And I think a tip that I can give to our audience especially for the T people, when you just don't know what to say, you must have said something offensive to your partner, but if your partner is offended, then the next time, I think what you do is, say, for instance, we all encounter difficulties in our lives, and I think T people, like if our partner comes back to us and say, oh, I have such a problem, I think a T person would naturally just go into problem solving. They would advise the partner what you should do. But sometimes your partner, even another T partner, you might just need some emotional value. You might just need some emotional support. And I think a tip that I can give to our audience is physical touch. So like, I think some of us, we talk about love language. I think when thinkers, we don't know what to say when our partner comes to us with sort of some emotional drama that we might not expect. I think just a hug, some cuddle would definitely help ease the whole thing out, even if we don't know what to say and we might have said something offensive.
Right. Very good advice. Totally. Like a hug says it all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I should tell my husband that. So he doesn't get all, so we don't go into that whole like argument again about him being insensitive.
Yeah.
Right. So the next category, moving on, is the last one, right? Like the fourth one is either if you're a perceiver or a
judging person.
Right. Okay, so you're either a P or a J person.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that have to do with match?
Right, so I think it's actually quite easy to tell for this one. It's that J people, the judging people, will want to make decisions, quickly make decisions. It's more decisive and like to plan, right? So they like to make advanced plans, and they would feel insecure if, plans are not in place, and with a sudden change of plans, they will also feel sort of offended or insecure, right? And for the perceiving people, on the opposite, they would want to keep options open and sort of respond to situations as they develop. So I think this is very interesting thing when you say, okay, when you're with your partner, if you're both perceiving, then I think it can get a bit chaotic in things like if you both don't plan for things, then if you say, for instance, the first thing you get married, you're going to get married. So if you have both perceiving partner, you can never get your wedding planned, because wedding is about planning, right?
Okay, but that's me and my husband though. We're both
do you encounter problems in wedding planning? Or?
No, we hired a planner.
Okay, that's the solution.
Yeah, we can't be bothered to deal with those things.
So I think this two component is quite you can immediately tell as well, because like a person who is always open to options will definitely be a P. And I think it's this thing, I think it can be a source of quarrel as well, but obviously it can also be sort of complementary. So I would say having a judging and a perceiving person as a combo would actually be quite a healthy one.
That's you.
Yeah. And but then if you have both J, then you might also have clashes with different kinds of planning towards things and things like that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, so for instance, like you and your partner, you are a P.
Yeah.
And your partner is a J, right? So obviously your partner is the planner.
Yeah, so I think what I want to say is MBTI is not about erasing yourself. It's about becoming a more mature version of your type. So I think, a lot of people would think MBTI it's something that, as you grow and mature, you will move to another type, which is not true, right? A lot of people, because I think perceivers will sort of be considered as less mature because they just don't prefer to plan things. But I think to plan things is something society actually looks for. Say, for instance, when we were young, our schools, our parents would tell us, well, we have to plan for our lives. We have to, have sort of a goal or something. But then I think for perceiving people, we just don't have it. We just don't necessarily think that is quite useful because our goals, our attitudes towards life, we will tend to change as we grow and as we mature.
Like more go with the flow.
Yeah, so I think, but then it's a lot of people would perceive perceivers as less mature, which is actually not true. I think as perceivers, as we mature, we of course we tend to also respect people who plan. Say, for instance, if our partner is a J person, then we tend to appreciate them for planning for us, like doing our travel plans, doing plan for our finances and the family and all that. So we tend to appreciate that. But I think, and judging people in turn, they would tend to appreciate that plans to change. And it's also a bit kind of fun to keep more options open, especially say if we travel, then we will have different, unexpected encounters all the time. And so if we are more open to options instead of sticking to all the plans, then life can get a bit easier and a bit more fun. So I think healthy couples with a J and P couple, then I think that's a good thing to remind yourselves about.
Right. Like, one important thing you said was appreciating each other's differences and what like they bring to the table.
Yeah.
Right. So like the perceivers, like they're more spontaneous, embrace like the spontaneity of them. Like it's more fun, they're not restricted in any way. But in turn, like they would also appreciate the judgers, like the J people, for being like really good at planning so that their itinerary, is more in place, and their plane tickets are there.
Yeah.
And their passports are all there.
Yeah.
And their hotel bookings are secure.
Absolutely.
Those things. It's when I go traveling with my parents when I was young, like I just feel so secure because especially my mom. My mom is like typical J.
Right.
Like a very good planner. Like she has to make sure everything is fully booked. Every single meal is booked.
Wow.
At certain times, and like every day there's like we have somewhere to go for dinner, we're not starving to death, Yeah, so she's like not spontaneous in that regard, And then she would get offended if suddenly like I wanted to like say change the plan. Like I said, oh, like let's cancel the reservation. I suddenly see this restaurant like there's seats there. Like why don't we try that instead? I rarely do that with her because she's like so like set, like in her plans. Like she doesn't like to change, and she just feels insecure if that goes on, and then she would like maybe scold me for that, and she would make a big deal out of canceling reservations, which for me is just very normal. If I find something better or I suddenly feel like I want something else, then I would just change it all, like just call and cancel the reservation and just go somewhere else. It's like very normal for me and my my husband as well, luckily. If he were like my mom, then I'd be in big trouble. Like so it's good. Like when we go traveling, I think we make some bookings. We maybe like just 20%. We make some restaurant bookings, like just having like a secure, some form of security there. But then the rest of it is just spontaneous. We'll just like eat whatever.
Yeah. I think also one of the key difference, I think, between a J and a P is like for your weekends. So I, as a perceiver, as a P person, I just definitely hate my weekends being booked up. Like I would think, okay, my weekend is my own time. Probably this is also one of the introvert things, the introvert perceiver. I would think, okay, a good weekend is a weekend without any plans. So I can decide what I want to do depending on my mood, depending on what time I get up, depending on the weather. and many other things. And then I decide on what to do. And this is what makes me feel alive. But then I think for J people, for instance, on the contrary, they might prefer having plans. Otherwise, they just don't feel secure, and they just think my weekend would have been ruined if I didn't plan anything. So sometimes I also advise my friends not to, ask me out on weekends, because it's really more relaxing for me to have no plans at all.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
Like maybe not plan something with you. Like, hey, Kevin, let's have lunch at 1 o'clock
Yeah,
at
I
this
hate
restaurant, right? Something like.
yeah.
But is it okay if they suddenly call you up and say, hey, do you want to join us? We're like
I will be
having a picnic.
absolutely happy about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
also,
a different story.
Instead, for instance, if we don't know what we want to do, so if I just say, oh, my friend wants to meet me on Saturday, and then I was like, okay, let's just meet up somewhere, and then we just decide as it goes, so go with the flow. So whatever it is we want to do on the day, then we just spend the whole day together. And I think that works for me. But if we need to go to dinner at 6 o'clock at that place, then I would be like, don't ruin my weekend. Yeah.
Put off by that.
Yeah.
No, like there are exceptions, unless sometimes for public holidays or weekends, like you can't find places and you're just gonna be stuck like with nothing to eat. Like that's a different story. Then you start to appreciate the person who actually made a reservation.
That's true. So after all, we just tend to appreciate the opposite of ourselves, but we don't want to just force ourselves to change and sort of become more mature by planning or whatever. But then we also appreciate what others do for us. I think that's the key thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's like such a luxury to like sleep until whenever you want and not have to wake up at a certain time.
But I can guess, like we are both P persons, but I can guess, J people can set an alarm clock for weekends. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah. But sometimes, if you have like kids, you're sort of forced to plan because they have activities. Like for my son, his activities are all on Saturday. We made it all on Saturday so that Sunday it's like free. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So we're forced to like wake up at a certain time on Saturday to bring him to this and there, and then but our Sundays are freed up.
I think Sandy, you just brought up a very, curious point for me as well, because I was just talking to a friend of mine who is also an INTP, who is actually also a mum. And I think what she told me about the struggle of being an INTP mum is that she gets scolded by her husband for getting late to all her son's activities. She wants to decide on things last minute, but then when you have kids, for instance, you have everything booked in. And she just hates doing that, and her husband might find her wasting money to getting late to their classes and all that.
So her husband is obviously not like her, right?
Probably a J person, might be. But I think that's quite an interesting thing. I think I also read some articles saying that what MBTI type is the less motherly figure, say for instance, and I think INTP is indeed the less motherly figure. So I think maybe you can invite my friend to become your guest one day to talk about the struggles of being an INTP mom. Because,
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But so what about INFP? That's me. Am I also not very motherly in that
I think
respect?
you're better because you're not as good to organize, these planning things for the kids' day offs or summer holidays and all that. But at least you're having, you're a F person. So I think at least you're more sort of empathetic to kids' feelings. But I think INT, like T people in general, they might just really not attuned to the kids' feelings. Like animals as well. Like, I'm not an animal person because I don't have that sort of empathy for little things and all that. So I think that brings us also to some fun facts that I just searched about, the gender differences or whatever in MBTI. So the first fact is that the NFJs are the rarest male personality types, which consists of only 2.8 of the male population. So I think this is definitely probably something in Western societies, but I think it still applies because I think FJ people tend to be, sort of the carer, they want to care for, the family, the group. So they're the natural sort of caregivers. But then for men, it's quite of not a masculine temperament thing. So and on the opposite side, I think the ENTJs are the rarest female type, which consists of only 1.5% of female population. And the INTJs are the second rarest, which means the NTJs are least represented in female. And I think it's also quite, telling, because it's just, the NTJs are just very strong kind of persons. They are very logical. They tend to value, they tend to be leaders, like very strong masculine kind of personalities. So I think that if that they are women, then it's naturally sort of deviant from the feminine temperament. So these are the gender differences that we can think about. And
maybe like, is this like very high-powered female leaders? They would be like ENTJs or INTJs.
Yeah, we would do have that. Maybe Margaret Thatcher. She might be an ENTJ. I don't know, but that kind of people.
Interesting. Yeah, totally. Like totally tough. Like embodying the very masculine.
Yeah, the
qualities.
Iron Lady.
Yeah, right. Okay, so conversely, like the more emotionally attuned ones, NFJs, like they're more like embodying feminine qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like a more gender specific like scope to this for sure. Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, so can I ask you, if we want to find like our perfect match, like the partner that's compatible with us, so how do we go along with this? Like, how do we know if they did the test, or like, do we just like give them the link, like WhatsApp them the link and ask them to do the test?
I think it's also so if you want to flirt somebody, I think that's actually quite a good start, especially for intuitive. I'm not sure about the sensing guys, like sensing people, the sensing folks, but I think it's quite like you can immediately begin some kind of conversations once you know the type. And I also think it's sort of fun to guess people's types, because I think when you get familiar with MBTI sort of as a thinking tool, so you can really try to guess people's MBTI. And I think I once have an INFJ friend who got into MBTI because of me, and she told me she would make a list of people like around her, like the 16 types. She would just put each name into each category. And sometimes I think from Sandy's strategy, we always go back to the people we know to find a potential partner. I think that is also quite a good strategy. I've been listening to Sandy's podcast, and I was saying, okay, actually it's a good thing if people wants to find a partner, then they can list out the personality types and see which person around them that actually might be a match and who is single, and you can just talk MBTI with the person.
Well, chances are, this being such a trend now, they would have they would know about it, or they would have done the test, or you could just send them the link and do the test. Yeah,
there are actually quite a number of free links online that do it. Yeah.
Okay, that's such a good idea. Like a really good conversation starter. It's really like astrology. Like, as I said, like to get to know the person's personality to see if it's a good match for you. Okay, so thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing your expertise. Like, I learned so much about that too.
My pleasure.
Okay, so, well, you guys heard it. I hope everyone can learn from it, and then go check out your type if you don't know it yet, and get familiarized with the 4 categories and see what everyone around you is, and try to like find a partner who's compatible with you through that.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Remember to subscribe to Love and Life Sorted so you don't miss an episode. And hop onto our IG page and follow us on IG so you can see more fun stuff. And if you haven't subscribed to my free newsletter, I urge you to do so we can continue our conversation outside of the podcast. Okay, so see you all next week. Bye.